Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
I'm Jill, the host of The Nourished Child. Let me ask you something. Do you wonder if your child is getting all the nutrition they need? Or do you feel unsure about what's going on with your child and their eating? Feeding kids is hard. I've raised 4 of my own children, and as a pediatric dietitian who works with kids and families, I know the job of nourishing and nurturing our children is a big one, full of emotional swings, frustrations, and worries. That's why I created thenourishedchild.com, the ultimate parent resource for children's nutrition and feeding. There, you will find free articles, e-guides, and programs to help you better understand your child, food, your own feeding, and their eating. Check out The Nourished Child today. Head to thenourishedchild.com. And now for the show. Hey there. Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast. I'm Jill Castle. I'm a pediatric dietitian, which is a dietitian who specializes in kids, birth to teen, and I've been doing this for the last 32 years. I'm also a mom to 4 adultish children. If this is your first time here, I'm totally honored. And if you're a returning listener, then I welcome you back. This is episode number 201. I was recently planning my content for the rest of this year and thinking about 2024. I scrolled back to look at the depths of episodes within this podcast and see what I've covered and where there were topic gaps. You guys, there is so much content on this podcast. It is easy to forget the backlist of this show, all the episodes, all the experts I've interviewed, all the topics I've tackled myself. It's really quite a vault of childhood nutrition information. That said, there may be topics I haven't covered that you'd like to hear about. You can let me know by emailing me your ideas, or you can go to thenourishedchild.com/podcast and voice record your questions. I will answer them here. Today, I'm talking about sneaking food. You know, when you find food wrappers in unexpected places, under the mattress, hidden in the closet corner, under the couch, or between the cushions. Let's be honest, it can be annoying, frustrating, stressful, and worrisome. Parents can get pretty stressed out when they discover their child has been sneak eating. What does this even mean? Thoughts run through your mind. Do I have a binge eater on my hands? When is this actually happening? How did I not notice? And did I do something to cause this? Well, there are several reasons why a child might eat in secret, and it might not have anything to do with being hungry. So in this episode, we're going to explore these, and I hope you stick with me to the end, because I'm going to leave you with some tips for a gentler approach to addressing this type of eating behavior. So sit back and relax, and the first thing I want you to do is to realize that secret eating is not misbehavior or an act of defiance. It's likely a sign that something else is going on with your child, like negative emotions that can happen from getting left out on the playground or teased about body size. Food can provide solace in this situation. Children can also turn to food because they're bored. The why of sneak eating may not be obvious, but it's important to get to the root. So let's go through some of these reasons for sneak eating. The first reason I've listed here is food parenting, specifically restricting or tightly controlling food. So one of the possible reasons children hide or sneak eat has to do with food parenting, or the way you're feeding your child, including the attitudes and the actions you use for the most part day to day. We all want our kids to eat healthfully, but trying to control what your child eats with pressure to eat more or to eat healthier or to try something new, or by restricting unhealthy foods or snacks or sweets, this can all affect your child's eating behaviors. and not in the way you might want it to. When parents restrict food, like sweets, children may become preoccupied with that limited food and seek it out and eat it. This can happen when they're bored, when they're emotional, or it can simply be a learned habit. Usually, it's not because your child is hungry. If you want to learn more about food restriction, go into the way back time machine of this podcast and listen to episode number 29, where I talk about food restriction. Ironically, restricting food might be your first instinct when you discover your child is sneaking food. You tuck food away or hide it from your child. But this rarely works and can make things worse. Instead of doing that, I encourage you to encourage your child's autonomy with food. Let them have a choice or input on the menu selections for mealtimes, or let them serve themselves at mealtime. When kids are allowed to collaborate or take part in decision-making around food, they are less likely to eat when they're not hungry. The second contributor to secret eating are the attitudes we adults carry about weight and larger bodies. So the fear of weight gain in our culture influences a lot of what we believe about food and eating. Unfortunately, how parents perceive their child's size and eating habits may affect that child's body image and their eating behaviors. One study found that parents who were over-invested in their child's size, meaning they focused on changing it, or they were afraid of their child's size growing larger, they found that this attitude or this overinvestment affected everyone in the home. And we know that commenting about a child's weight, how much they eat, or about their body size negatively affects their body image. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go back to podcast number 195, where I talk about in-laws who comment about children's bodies and their eating style, and also episode number 200, which is the one that's right before this one, that talks about stereotyping or labeling children based on their size, their eating habits, and their activity. Two good episodes to dive a little bit further into this. But we know that feelings of shame about one's own body may play a role in developing an eating disorder, specifically binge eating disorder, or that uncontrollable eating of large amounts of food in a short period of time. If you struggle as a parent with too much worry about your child's size, consider working with a professional who can help you take a whole child approach with lifestyle behaviors that everyone can feel good about. And I will put a little shameless plug here. I am seeing private clients again, and you can learn more about my services on jillcastle.com. The third reason why kids may be eating in secret is related to screen time, or the amount of time they spend in front of screens like television, iPhones, games, electronic games. So according to a recent study, kids who spent more time in front of screens were more likely to sneak food, hide food, and hoard it. A quote from the article, and this article was done by Feichner et al., and it appeared in the Journal of Childhood Obesity in 2018. They state, quote, "Increased hours of screen time were associated with higher prevalence of eating in the absence of hunger," end quote. This all just basically means when you eat in front of the TV, for example, it is more likely that you will ignore your hunger signals and your feelings of fullness. And this definitely happens with children. Television and social media may play a role in how a child feels about their body. So again, if your child spends a lot of time with screens, it can influence their body image, their attitudes about food, and their eating behaviors. So how can you help the child who you have found out or caught sneak eating? So it can be distressful and confusing when you discover a lot of food in unusual places, or maybe you haven't found any evidence that your child is sneak eating, but your child is mysteriously experiencing more weight gain. First, take a deep breath. While this is disturbing, it's not insurmountable. As a parent, it's natural to worry about why it's happening and to want to promote healthy eating. It is also natural to want to control everything and get things back on track. I encourage you to not go down that path. When it comes to emotional issues and eating behaviors, it's best not to make your child feel like he's doing something wrong. In my experience, when a parent has a strong reaction to how and what a child eats, it can negatively affect that child's relationship with food for years to come. So here are a few things that you can do. First, the first thing, rule out any physiological reasons for hunger. That means ask yourself, are meals and snacks happening every 3 to 4 hours? Are they nutritious and are they filling? If not, you can rectify this. Your child may be more hungry because they're not getting their basic needs met, or that they are in a growth spurt and just need you to upregulate how much food they're getting. We want to make sure that children get enough food and the filling types of food throughout the day that will satisfy their appetite. Next, check in with yourself and make sure you're not being too restrictive or too controlling with food, especially sweets and treats. When you become restrictive, and this can happen when we see our kids being overly interested in food or overeating, a vicious cycle can begin. You take away food or you make it scarce and your child wants it more. And this desire for more can turn into food-seeking behavior. The opposite can be happening also. It may be that you don't have enough structure and boundaries in your home food environment, and your child, who may be more food responsive, has a hard time controlling themselves in the presence of abundant food or easy access to it. This is obviously a delicate path to walk. You really do need to know your kid and their innate interest and behavior around food. Also, you need to check in with your child. Did something happen that has them emotionally upset? Were they bullied, teased? Or is your child struggling with low self-esteem or mental health issues? Support them and realize it's not about food. Don't shame your child. Embarrassing or shaming a child doesn't help change behaviors. It's more likely to lead to a negative body image and an unhealthy relationship with food. Instead, recognize that something deeper might be going on. Be patient. It takes time to get to the root of secret eating and to help your child develop a positive relationship with food. And last, check in with your food beliefs. Diet culture is everywhere. Be aware of how you might impose your thoughts about body shape and body size onto your child. Watching your child struggle with secret eating and hiding food, especially when you may have had an eating disorder in the past or are currently participating in disordered or dysfunctional eating behaviors, these can be challenging and they can impact how your child is relating to themselves and to food. But the good news is there are professionals out there who can help. If your child's secret eating seems to be emotionally based, consider hiring a therapist. If it is disordered or dysfunctional eating, a pediatric or family dietitian or a mental health professional with experience in disordered eating can help guide you. So that's it for today, folks. I hope this was a valuable episode for you. Let me know what you want to hear about on the show or ask your questions over at thenourishedchild.com/podcast. Have a great rest of the week and give that child in your life a loving squeeze today. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.